Hey creatives, you know how I'm always talking about creative systems that work? Well, that actually includes your money too. If you're still shoving receipts in a shoebox and hoping for the best come tax time, we need to talk about the core group. They're a profit-first certified accountants who actually understand the creative hustle. No judgment, just clarity. They help you build financial systems that create margin in your business instead of stress. And this is coming from me. I'm a loyal core group subscriber. So check them out at coregroup.us.com. That's coregroup.us.com. Check out the core group today. This week on the podcast, we're going to go back to November of 2024 and hear from my good friend and client, Darren Cooper of 1898 Creative. And he's going to talk about the power of storytelling. It was an amazing episode, one of our more popular episodes. So we wanted to revisit it this week. So enjoy this Creativity Made Easy podcast replay now.
Taking creatives from chaos to clarity.
Welcome back to Creativity Made Easy. I'm your host, Dustin Pead, creative coach and consultant. Episode 90. I'm so pumped to have with me one of my very best friends, business partners, clients, all the things. Darren Cooper in the house, live from his basement in Indianapolis. What up, Darren?
What's up, man? Live from the dungeon down here, and glad to be here as always. Love this podcast, love you, and love all that you're doing, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're having a good time together, building a thing that Darren's got going on. I call it a thing. It's bigger than a thing. It's a real big thing. It's called 1898 Creative, in which Darren started as a video agency, but it is blowing up. And so what I've loved about Darren, besides his constant same uniform every day, including the Create Your Art hat, which I have one of myself and I love it.
Yeah.
But what I really love is Darren's commitment to a story process. And so I thought today I would just bring Darren on and we'll just kind of talk about why story matters. Because I think we hear that all the time, right? In the creativity world, we've read the Creativity Inc. and we've heard of, we know the storyboard process and like all these different things. And everybody kind of has their process. And that's what this whole podcast is about, right? Is creativity made easy because you have a process behind it and you've established what your process is. And that's what I'm doing out here, helping people define their process. And so there's my family saying, yeah, we know you're recording a podcast. And so I wanted to bring Darren on here, and just because whenever I think about the story process and in terms of our creative processes, I think of Darren because it's what he preaches all the time to us at 1898. And so I just wanted to bring him on here to talk a few minutes about why story matters. So let's just start broad strokes. Why do you think in our creative processes that story matters, Darren?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I echo what you're saying, that story has kind of become a little bit more popular, even though stories have been around forever. But like story inside of like business and story inside of what you're doing and like social media. I think it's become more popular because we're all out there in social media land or trying to get attention or trying to grow the thing that we're doing. And story has become more popular because when you break it down, right, like at the foundational level of who we are that you can trace back to, first man, if you will, story is important in a part of our culture and who we are, right? It allows us to connect to each other. That's what I always say, that story is this way to bring people in to who you are. Maybe it shares an idea with you, or it proves a point that you try to get across, right? Story, when done well, just sucks us in, right? That's why we Netflix ourselves to death sometimes, right? Like all of a sudden you're just captivated by this story and you can't wait to finish. You got to see what happens. It pulls you along, and that's why story is so important. It's really the way that we share our ideas. It's a way that we connect with each other. It's a way that we connect with even God and beyond, just what we see here physically. It's just crazy what story can do for you and what you're about.
Yeah, I always like to think about it when we're working with clients at 1898. I like to think about it as because everybody knows in the business world, whether it's creative or not, that starting with why helps everybody
Mhm,
really
mhm.
understand who you are, right?
Good
And
old Simon Sinek, right?
yeah, Simon Sinek is the man for a reason. And I like to think of story as explaining the why
Mhm,
to me
mhm.
without just telling me
Yeah,
what the why is.
yeah,
But you're showing me the why,
yeah.
not just telling me the
Right,
why.
right.
And so as we tell that story or we tell that why or we share or show that why, Darren, what are the parts and pieces that you found are necessary in every story that you have to tell?
Right, right. And I feel a little bit, behind, not behind the eight ball, like a little bit like me telling you this is like there's guys out there that have taught this and have shared this way more than I ever have or ever will in my life, right? Like I've learned from the greats that have come before me. So
Right.
anything that I share is not going to be this revolutionary piece of information for you, but
Yeah.
hopefully it shines light on why this is important. But I mean, there's a couple of different ways that you could approach this, right? Every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Like at its
Yeah, pretty
foundational
simple.
level, right? But I think when it comes to a good story, the one piece that you always have to have in there is the conflict, right? There's got to be some type of conflict. There has to be what even Don Miller at Storybrand would say is there has to be stakes in this thing, right? There has to be the hero has to either be able to succeed or not succeed.
Or
He has
risk
to
of failure.
win. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The risk of failure, right? He has to win the girl or he has to lose the girl. He has to get the ring to where it needs to be or he needs to die in the process, right? There has to be some type of risk there. And I think especially for us at 1898, we do a lot with businesses and kind of B2B type businesses is telling the story of why they created these companies and what they do. So it's easy to leave out that element, that little bit of risk, the little bit of like, what are we doing? What is at stake here if we don't succeed as this business? It's easy to overlook those pieces. But when you come to talking about the art that you create, whether you're a musician or an artist in some way, or you're in business trying to create that thing that you want to bring into the world, adding that element, that tension of will this work or will this not, is always engaging when it comes to a story arc. And
Yeah, and
that's something that can't be left out.
I would say the reason it's engaging is it brings you to the edge of your seat,
Mhm.
right?
For sure.
The stakes are
100%.
the stakes are high. I'm gonna
Mhm.
speak a language for a second that Darren doesn't really understand, but many of you who listen to this podcast know that I'm a NASCAR fan. And just last week, I was at the final round playoff race before the championship race. So that'll just date
All
when we
right.
did this, right?
Sounds very important.
It is with
Okay.
where you taking 8 drivers or 8 athletes or 8 teams, and you're
Yeah.
gonna narrow it down to the 4. So 4 are about to be
Yeah.
eliminated. The stakes are high
Mhm.
and it has you on the edge of your seat. Now, for
Yeah.
it's a 500 lap race. For 400 laps, we're just trying to get to the front, right?
Right.
But the last little bit, in the last 20 laps, you saw people make some moves that they would never have made in any normal race weekend
Yeah.
throughout the other 36
Yeah.
weekends of the year because the stakes were that high. And because we were all there, several thousand people there watching this unfold in front of us, we were either at our seats or
Mhm.
standing. Like, so
Mhm.
Darren's a Colts fan, goes to lots of Colts
Oh,
games.
let's go.
There are moments when it's 4th and inches in the red zone.
Yep.
And is everybody sitting, Darren, or are they
No,
standing?
no, no. We are standing, and in Indianapolis, we like to get loud, if you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
And
So,
then you're standing in anticipation
mhm.
of which way is this going to go
Right,
here?
right,
Which way is this going to go? So you
right.
can already feel you've been in that situation before, whether it's a NASCAR race or a Colts game or whatever. You've been in
Yep,
that situation before where you feel the anticipation and you're like, I gotta know what's gonna happen next. Like
yeah,
Darren was saying earlier with binging the Netflix. The reason why binging is a thing is because these shows and these movies have figured out
man.
if we can leave you with a hook, which we're gonna come back
Mhm.
to in a minute.
Yep, yep.
If we can leave you with a hook at the end of this episode, then you're more likely to go ahead and watch the next episode. and then
For
the next
sure.
episode, and the next episode.
For sure.
That's why for me, Darren, when I watch Stranger Things, right, when the new season of Stranger Things comes out, they're the masters of this, right?
Yeah.
When I watch Stranger Things, I watch the episode, and then I watch the first 10 minutes of the next episode, and then I pause. Because in the first 10 minutes of the next episode, they've resolved the conflict that the other episode or the hook ended with there. So I'm like, I can't sleep.
Yep. Yeah, you'll be up all night staring at the ceiling.
Did that Demogorgon just eat Michael, or what happened? Like, you know what I mean? So I've got to watch that and figure that out. I watch the next 10 minutes and I go, okay,
like, okay, resolve.
But it's what gives you attention. It's what gives you focus. You're focused on it because of that conflict.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. And that's what a good story does, right? It draws. It is. It's beautiful. I love Stranger Things, man. That's a great analogy. Way to pull that. I was kind of forgot that show was coming back. So I'm ready.
Shot right here in our neck of the woods in West Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow. I would have tried to go and find them on set or something.
Yeah. Hopper's cabin is around here. It's a whole thing.
Dang. I didn't know that.
Yep. Takes place in a fictional town in Indiana, but it's shot here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. So it connects us together. Me here in Indy.
Everything's about Atlanta and Indy. Everything.
See, I knew it. So.
Well, talk to me, Darren, about the rest of the pieces. So we know it has to have conflict. What else does a good story have to have?
Yeah, and I'll take the time to kind of walk through a little bit of what we've come up with at as the 1898 story arc, right? Like, look, this isn't the end all be all, and this is very much what a lot of people do. But if you've ever studied any of Pixar's films, or if you've ever looked at any Hollywood type stuff, you'll see some of this. If you're a story brand Don Miller guy, you've heard kind of his story arc and what he plays out. But something that we've kind of found in at least the films and the videos that we put together is this kind of story arc. We like to start with the hook, right? Something that's going to capture your attention, something that's going to cue you that there is something else coming, right? So some type of hook that happens that then leads into some of the backstory, right? So it hooks you in and then it walks you through. So for example, if we, like I told you, we do a lot of B2B business type of video or film. It's like some type of hook that brings you in and then it walks you through kind of some of the backstory, where the company came from, who are the owners, what is their story a little bit? Why did they choose this line of work? Was it something that their dad did and now they do? Is it something they bought into and now they're just kind of trying to blow this up, or whatever it is, right? What is some of the backstory and some of the things that happen? Then one of the key elements is, what is that conflict? What did it take for them to, like, all of a sudden now there's some stakes. The business could close. The foreclosure piece comes in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, what are we going to do? They have to overcome some type of sale deficit or something along those lines. But there is a conflict in the story that happens, right? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to businesses, sometimes that's hard to find, but it's something that you got to fight for, because without that conflict, there's not a good story there, right?
Right, because there's 1,000 HVAC companies in the world.
Yeah.
1,000 manufacturers of this, and 1,000 doctors' offices, and all these different things, right? But what makes yours uniquely different? And I think as we're talking about the story process and how it relates to your creative process, is that I always tell people that every creative process is different, and every creative process evolves all the time. So how is your creative process evolving by the way that you tell the story? Right. Yeah. So the way that you take your process, you take your idea from just a thought to full on reality, how you get there is the same thing. If you don't give yourself a hook in the beginning, then you're not motivated enough to kind of see it through. Now you got hook, you've got interest, right? It's the idea. Now you start going into the backstory a little bit more, which I know is a part of our story arc as well. So what's the backstory here? What's the history here? Why should I care about these characters? Why should I care about this idea? What difference is this idea going to make?
It gives them depth, not just somebody you're seeing on a screen and all of a sudden goes, oh, they're like me. Or, oh, then now I understand who they are and what they do and what makes them tick, right?
Yeah, it's no different than an idea. Just it relates to people, but it also relates to an idea. So how do I relate to this idea? What is the origin of this idea? What problem is this idea trying to solve, right? Because it's been said many times, Todd Henry says all the time, is that creativity is just problem solving.
Yeah.
So we're just out here trying to solve the problem. So this idea is going to solve a problem, and I need to know the root of this idea in order to care enough about it, right, to see it through. And when you were talking earlier about the hook, I immediately in my mind flashed to like James Bond movies or Mission Impossible movies and how they always start with some type of action sequence.
Yep.
That's the hook.
Yep.
Because that starts that way.
Great example.
20 minutes long. You're just like, I don't care what happens after this.
Right.
If there's more of that involved, I mean,
yeah, it's to that movie part or idea. It's like before the beginning where the logo comes in and it tells you everybody that's in it, right?
Yeah.
It's whatever that piece is before that happens.
Yeah,
right.
That is the whole Bond overture. That happens.
Yeah.
It's before all of that.
Yep, for sure.
Because we have to hook them first.
Yep, it sets the stage for everything else to come.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So in closing thoughts, Darren, what are some things that you're just like, okay, we've talked about the hook, we've talked about a little bit about backstory, and we've talked about some conflict. What's the best way to resolve a story?
The best way to resolve a story, Dustin, is to just show, like, to that example earlier, does he get the girl, does he not, is to show that actually happening, right? How do you resolve that storyline? So if we're using the idea of a James Bond, the bad guy comes in and all the things blow up and all the stuff starts to happen, and now there's this journey of all these things unfolding, but we're always waiting for that resolution, right? It's always coming back to it resolved, everything's good, bad guy's in jail, we're set, we're ready, right? So in a business standpoint, when you create this conflict of, I started to grow this business and all of a sudden I found myself in all this debt, we were upside down, I didn't know how I was going to pay payroll, I wasn't sure if the business could continue. Oh man, resolve is, but we implemented X, Y, and Z, we were able to dig our way out, and now everything got back to where it needs to be. We're able to pay our employees, and we grew tenfold over the next few years, right? Resolution. We know it landed. It's good. The plane has come in, and that's how you end that story.
Yeah, and you said something there that's interesting, because as you were beginning to answer that question, I was like, I think what ends a great story is the same thing that ends a great idea, and that's scalability. You just said like, oh, now we can grow. Oh, now we can do more.
Yeah.
Right. It's why there's sequels to movies, right? The hero finds out he actually can do that. Marty McFly actually can go back in time and change his future. So there's more opportunity there. Well, if I can do it once, I can do it 2 more times. I can go back to the old West and do it even, right? So
yes.
I'm a huge Back to the Future guy. I love the trilogy.
I'm in.
Watch it over and over and over as a kid. But what I think what's interesting is we're applying this concept of story to your ideas, is that there's scalability there at the end. To go like,
and there's a difference, right, between like a movie story end and then like if we're inviting people into maybe our story in some way, shape, or form, or a business or art or whatever we're trying to put together, right? I think a good resolve there is once you've brought everything to a close and everybody's like, oh, that's nice, and then you call them to action, right? Some type of come to this new understanding, this new idea, or come to my website, or come to what it is that I'm about,
right?
And now start this journey with me. It's a little bit of an invitation and an action lived out, right?
Yes. Every great story should spur you on to action.
Correct.
That's why in the faith community, we always look back at Jesus and say he always taught in story. And after the story, he goes, well, let it be so with you as well. And what he means by that is now you go and do what you just learned. You take action. It's like when you were a kid and you walked out of the movie theater and you immediately started acting like the hero of the story.
Yeah, that's good example.
It's because you're like, oh, now I want to be like that. Now I want to do that. So good story spurs you on to action for sure.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Man. We can talk story all day.
For sure.
Try to keep this short and honor your time and our listeners as well. But man, thanks so much for being on here. And I hope that for our listeners and watchers of this, just get a little bit more perspective on why story matters. So thanks for being here, Darren.
Oh, 100%. Do it anytime, man.
Awesome. We'll talk to you next week on Creativity Made Easy.